Hello and welcome everybody. SSBills Talk on this first Sunday in June. New setup for me. You see, I'm in my summer home in New York.
Hmm. Hey, hey,
Dungan
hey, camper.
still at home, and Dr. Dungan is in different digs as well
I'm
from his
on my
normal setup.
couch.
So yeah, welcome in everybody. Dr. D, how's it going?
Super duper. Just been hanging out. Tomorrow's my anniversary, in case you forgot.
Oh, no, it's a yearly reminder, so I don't forget. And so my calendar shows up at 7 a.m. in the morning. So if not for that, I probably would forget, but I
Yeah,
said it because I know myself, and that way I don't forget.
yeah. No, just been hanging out.
But we're hanging out here today. Last week we did our fantasy Bills offensive draft. Uh, I obviously dominated that, and we had
You got crushed.
people maybe we've both forgot at some point. Uh, I made a list this time of players I didn't want to forget. You said you did some prep work ahead of time. We are professionals. For those of you who maybe missed last week, what we're doing is kind of the dead time of year. So we're kind of doing a fantasy draft, but it's Bills players from our lifetime. So we won't see anything like Fred Smirlis or anything from back in the early Bills days or anybody like that. Will be people you and I have watched in theory because they were playing when we were alive. But it'll be 3 defensive ends, 3 defensive tackles, 3 linebackers, 3 corners, 3 safeties, and 1 of each specialist, including a special teamer, considering the Bills are the best special teamer in history.
Hmm.
So, how excited are you for the draft?
Dude, I'm super excited. I've been thinking about this for like the last hour, so
That's
I'm ready. I beat you on offense, about to beat you on defense.
no, well, I am at least going to have it up on a Word document this time as opposed to a whiteboard where I'm trying to smash everything in. So it is a snake
Speaking
draft.
of race,
Last week, Dr. Dungan had the first pick, so I will have first, and then he will get 2 in a row as snake drafts go. Last week it kind of was a pretty easy pick with Josh. Again, I think this week it's a pretty easy pick for Bills defensive players. Unquestionably, their best defensive player of all time, one of the NFL's best defensive players of all time. We have Bruce Smith, the NFL's all-time sack leader, an extremely underrated run defender as well. If you go back and look, like he was an all-around defensive end, put the fear of God into people. Would have had the sack record even earlier, except he missed most of the 1991 season with a knee injury. I remember that because Bill's highlight video talked about it quite a bit back in the day. So Bruce Smith, number 1, I don't think any surprise.
yeah, he was a great Redskin too.
I mean, that's where he got the record, unfortunately. But
Yeah. Now, see, and that's the one thing about guys like him and Thurman that I mean, should even talk about other teams like the Niners, right? And
with
why
Joe
not
Montana finishing with the
the
Chiefs,
Chiefs? Yeah, like it's just most fans forget that it happened, and obviously, yeah, like you only ever see Bruce Smith in a Bills uniform, but he did not finish his career that way. All right.
first pick, now 2 to you.
Yeah, and so honestly, this is where I find the hardest because like the Bills have so many good players. I feel like there's only one Bruce. There's only one, and it's just like earlier, like or last week. There's only one Josh Allen, but
Yeah.
at least there's still a Jim and there's Thurman and there's these other guys on defense. We have a lot of greats, but like there's only one all timer, and you got him. So I I frankly didn't I don't know where to start. But I'm going to start with linebacker. Okay, so we have 3 linebackers, and I'm going to take a guy who was a 3-time All Pro, 3-time first team All Pro, huge part of those 4 straight Super Bowls in Cornelius Bennett.
The Biscuit. That was his nickname.
Yes. I figured. I didn't think you came up with that off the cuff. Oh yeah, biscuit. That sounds right.
Also, we last week we talked about all-time trades. Us getting him was an all-time trade right there. But yeah, good pick.
So Cornelius Bennett, and then yeah, again, I'm torn because there's a lot of dudes that I remember. I mean, I started watching like Aaron Schobel is one of the first guys that I can remember like
Mhm.
watching. Same thing with Kyle. But they're not necessarily all time dudes, or at least I think that there's probably guys on our team that I like better. This pick I'm about to make, it might be a little bit of a surprise. One, because I think people who aren't Bills fans forget that he started his career in Buffalo. But two, you look everywhere he's gone, even in the twilight of his career, everywhere he goes, he starts, he plays well. I mean, he in a way reminds me almost uh, of of Revis, because Revis, he bounced around and everywhere he went, he was awesome. And that's going to be, do you know who?
Stephon Gilmore.
Gilmore. Yeah.
I already had
Uh,
it typed out.
what's that?
I already had it typed out before you even
Yeah.
said it.
He's been a first team All Pro, I think, a couple of times. He's been a lockdown corner for us, lockdown corner for New England. Great with Minnesota. I think he played a year with Indianapolis. Played with Dallas. Right, everywhere he's gone, like he's just been a solid, dependable corner. You do not have to worry about him. So I think, frankly, probably one of the more, like in terms of career wise, likely an underrated player. But yeah, Stephon Gilmore, number.
So Gilmore and Bennett off the board for you. Back to me with 2 picks here. Make sure I'm getting all these people taken away. All right, so I took Bruce Smith first. I'm going to now take one of my favorite all-time Bills. Didn't stay with his Bills his whole career, but I loved him. He came from my favorite college as well, so I was a double dipper right there. Laid the boomstick on Tom Brady. am of course talking about Nate Clements.
Nate Clements, yeah.
One of my all-time favorite Bills. Just love the way he played, the attitude he played with. He played always well for the Bills, and he went to the Niners and sucked. So kind of like Jarris Bird, we got the best out of him that he could get.
Yeah. And that's just it. I think the Bills are littered with a history of good defensive backs. And yeah, I mean, Aaron Schobel, I mean, not Aaron Schobel. And then Nate Clemens was another one of those, him and Terrence, some of the first guys that I can really remember watching and playing. Number 22 streaking down the field. Yeah. All right.
And then,
I don't love it. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't.
Well, I think, as I said last week, I'm picking players that are probably more personal to me. Like Bruce is one of the he's the only old time jersey I have is Bruce. He's my favorite player from that era. Clements was my favorite player from that era, defensively, along with Eric Moulds. It's like I'm kind of doing a little bit of my favorite players. They may not be the best, but Clements was an all pro as well. It's not like he was a slouch.
Yeah.
So D tackle, I'm going to go with the face of the drought, who, when he was in his prime, was one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Of course, I'm talking about Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams.
We don't need to say much about him. Probably anybody listening to this is pretty well aware of him, but I just remember that game where Stevie dropped the touchdown in overtime. Kyle Williams absolutely owned the Steelers that game, just play after play, wrecking it. And that's when there was nobody really helping him on the defense. Teams knew we got to stop Kyle Williams, and he still was out there making plays, giving his all for a team that wasn't all that good. And one of my best memories of that locker room scene, where the Bills made the playoffs, you just see the emotion in Kyle's face when everything he's been through, finally his kids are there with him. It's one of my favorite just Bills moments, period. Just that emotion from that guy who had been through so much with the Bills. So Kyle Williams for me.
Yeah, no, I mean that that picture, but also his very last play as a Bill, him catching that little out route from Josh. That was pretty awesome. I mean, everyone knew that's where it was going. Like, it was going nowhere else but to Kyle. So, two, the defense couldn't stop it. But three, I'm just like, why are you guys trying to? Like what a bunch of jerks you are. All right. So Kyle and Nate. All right. So I had Bennett and Gilmore.
Yep, Stefan.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go down to the defensive line. I mean, he wasn't all that great for us, but I think Von Miller is an all-time. I mean, so are we counting him as a linebacker or as a defensive end? Because I know what his position is, but where he plays is a bit different.
Let's see.
I know he's a linebacker.
We had his first year listed with us. We had him at right defensive end. So I honestly don't care. Like, I'm going to be picking somebody that was probably not what we think of him positional wise, but so if he played in his career, go ahead and throw him wherever you want him.
I would like to put him at defensive end.
Okay, so he will be defensive end for you.
Yeah. So, again, I wish we would have gotten a little bit more out of him, but there is no question in terms of his impact on the game. What he did with Denver and the Rams, first ballot Hall of Famer. And my
thing with that too is with Von, until that first year with us, he was actually doing what he was supposed to do. Is the most frustrating part. Like, he was getting sacks and clutch moments, and then the ACL, and then nothing was the same since. But so that's kind of disappointing that we saw a glimpse of what it could have been.
Yep. The next guy I'm going to take is, a man that I got to witness have one of the more improbable pick sixes. If I forget the name of the guy who does the big man balling. Who I'm talking about? The defensive or the former defensive tackle for the Cowboys. Who does that?
I don't know. I think I know who you're going to pick, but I don't know who that is from the Cowboys.
But anyways, if this happened back in the day, he would have been the number one big man balling. I'm going to take Sam Adams as my next pick. There's probably better guys on the team, but that just has I just again remember watching him play with Sam Adams and Pat Williams, those two big mothers right there. Yeah,
that's two good picks. So just to give everybody a rundown, you have Von Miller, Sam Adams, Cornelius Bennett, and Stephon Gilmore. I have Bruce Smith, Kyle Williams, and Nate Clements. That brings me up again 2 picks. I'm going to take a safety. I'm going to take somebody who I wish would have ended his career better, but there's nobody better from the last decade, Micah Hyde, who just he helped the Bills turn around and make them into what they are. I think him more than Poyer. I think of more of like an impact. They both were great, but if I'm going to have to pick one over the other, Micah Hyde is going to be my pick.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, I definitely liked Hyde better. I think he was a better athlete. I think he was a smarter player. At least he didn't cost us as many times as Poyer. But I think Poyer had more All-Pro selections.
Yep. I think the biggest couple plays of Micah, that kick 6 he had on the onside against the Dolphins.
He jumped and did the little pirouette. Yeah, that was awesome.
And then obviously that probably the best interception I've ever watched was that Patriots one where he just went right over I don't think anybody thought that was even going to get touched, but he made like one of the best plays in Bills playoff history and just probably the funnest game I've ever, like the perfect game of Josh. That just absolute domination.
Yeah. Nah, it's just again, it sucks that like he ended his career like the way that just being hurt because he was such a good player with those last couple of years for us. He just couldn't stay healthy.
And then I'm going to go linebacker. He was one of the two linebackers during this time that was great, but I like him more than the other one. I'm going to go with London Fletcher, from the Drew Bledsoe era, Buffalo Bills. Obviously came over from the Rams after winning the Super Bowl, going to another one. He had probably most people remember him for going to the Redskins after the Bills, but I remember the excitement when he came, and then just all the plays he made. He was one of the first jerseys I remember getting. So London Fletcher, like one of the he'd be in the Hall of Great. I don't think he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's right in that step below. I think like Cornelius Bennett.
Yeah,
in terms of just not an all-timer, but really close. So London Fletcher for me for the Bills.
Yeah, no, I mean that dude was just a consistent 100 tackling machine. Like he reminds me of, or I guess Bobby Wagner is probably a modern day London Fletcher. Just it doesn't matter what team it is, you plug him in, he gets tackles, you don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, and age didn't really seem to matter. He just played at that level the whole
time. Yeah, no, I agree. All right, it's good. Okay, then I'm going to go. So I'm going to go safety. I'm going to take the other guy. I'm going to take Poyer, even though I do personally like Micah Hyde better. Outside of Poyer's last year with us, when age really started to catch up, you never question how much he wanted to play. I mean, that game where he had to get in the bus, right, and be driven to the game. I think it was in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and remember he played with that huge arm brace too, just because his arm was destroyed.
So he's an absolute warrior. Gave the Bills everything he could. I mean, I think some of it was marred by not off the field, but like his wife talking a little bit. But when he was a Buffalo Bill, he gave it everything he had. So he was like a first team All Pro once, a second team All Pro another time. In terms of our safeties, one of the better ones that we've ever had. And the other guy I'm going to go with, still a Buffalo Bill, my man, the best goalie from Shreveport, Louisiana, Tre'Davious White. Obviously he was a first team All Pro that year, but like outside of the last year that Trey was with, he's just so good, such a great locker room guy, such a great teammate, made a lot of really big plays for us, a great corner, right? I mean, I think even his time that he spent in Baltimore last year, I mean, outside of that penalty he got called for that really wasn't a penalty, like that dude, he was solid. He was so good, never had to worry about him. So if I had my two corners being Trey and Gilmore, I'd be all right with that.
So you got 2 out of your 3 done there. Where I think right along with Josh, like one of the best draft picks of this era for the Bills, 100%. All right. So you're the first one to take a second player at a position we've kind of just been singling everything up thus far. I'm going to go back to the defensive line. I'm going to take Mario Williams. Who was a part of a defense that was really fun to watch. I remember watching that team, and you and I just texting, thinking like just how good our defensive line was those few years. Mario, Marcel, Hughes, him, and just of course the offense sucked. Imagine if we had that defense with this team, just how good that would be.
There was numerous times in our watching career, or like during the drought, where it was phenomenal. Like when we had Takeo Spikes and London
Mhm.
Fletcher and Nate
So
Clements,
good.
Aaron Shaw, like so good. But then the offense sucked. Like, yeah,
Yeah. And that's I think where I got like I can't stand awful defense.
I
Is
know you can't.
because for even as bad as Bills have been for a lot of my life, their defense has usually been upper half. It's like when they start, like I can't stand them getting wrecked. So Mario was obviously during the drought, like one of the most exciting things that happened was the Bills signing him.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
$10
thought they
million.
would, and I think he lived up to what we paid him for the time. Like he produced
Mm-hmm.
for the Bills. So I got him and Bruce Smith. I'm pretty happy with those bookends. And then I'm going to go back to what am I going to do? I'm going to go D tackle. I already have Kyle Williams. I'm going to put Pat Williams next to him.
Ooh.
We need a space eater now. Pat Williams, you mentioned him earlier, talking about him and Sam Adams. Pat Williams, again, somebody the Bills let go. Not happy that they went, but he went to the Vikings just like Antoine Winfield did, just like our boy Harrison Phillips did. But a space eater, him and Ted Washington back, they just, my goodness, you couldn't move those two. And then Sam Adams too. So Pat Williams for me to take my second D tackle.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to defensive end. I don't know if he's. I think he's a. Yeah, like people who have watched the Bills for a while will know and appreciate Aaron Schobel. It just how good he was for us. I don't think. I mean, I think he made a couple of Pro Bowls. Wasn't like a All Pro kind of guy, but he's just consistent, really solid. I think he's like third or fourth all time on sacks for the Bills.
And he kind of retired out of nowhere.
Yeah. So
he was one of the best players from that era of 100%.
So I got Vaughn and Schobel. I'm going to go to linebacker. I took Cornelius Bennett already. You took
Fletcher,
guy that I liked. And I'm sort of between a couple of guys. I want to go Kiko Alonso just because of how much he meant. I'm kidding. I'm going to take a guy who, a lot of people think that he probably should be in the Hall of Fame. At least I know Jim Kelly has beaten the drum about this. Anyways, he's a Bills Ring of Honor guy. I'm going to go with Darryl Talley.
Yep. And he's one of those glue guys from those Super Bowl teams. Like he was the emotional leader of that, and I just like Cornelius Bennett. I think he's gonna always just be in that hall of very great. And his only chance would be when how they always have those like handful of like veteran era people that they vote in after their eligibility ends. I think that'd be his chances. That. But yeah, you go look at those Super Bowl era teams, and you'll see Darryl Talley making plays all over the field. And he's had a rough after NFL career, so it's good to see that he's kind of back and kind of bouncing back from his struggles there.
Sure.
So, quick rundown because there's been a few. I have Bruce Smith, Mario Williams, D end, Kyle Williams, Pat Williams, D tackle, Fletcher linebacker, cornerback Nate Clements, and safety Micah Hyde. You have at pass rusher Von Miller and Schobel, D tackle Sam Adams, linebackers Bennett and Talley. So you got the two Super Bowl era linebackers there. Cornerbacks Gilmore and Trey, and then Poyer as a safety. So that brings it back to me now. I'm going to go back to the safety room. One of my, again, probably not the best. He could have been. And we both hate Landry because of what he did to this guy.
Yep.
Aaron Williams, who he was ascending. He moved from corner to safety, was starting to get a feel for how to play the position, and then the injury just derailed everything. But somebody who could have just went in the tank after he didn't pan out as a corner, embraced the move at the safety, and one of my favorite Bills of that time, Aaron Williams, as a safety. Whoops, I put that under your name. You don't want him. Well, you do want him, but So Aaron Williams. Then I go to corner. I'm going to take another guy who left for Minnesota, also from the Ohio State University, Antoine Winfield. I don't think even arguably top 3 tackling cornerbacks in NFL history. Lots of great years in Minnesota after a good career in Buffalo. So Winfield and Clements back at it again. If I'm not mistaken, Winfield's last game was the Music City Miracle. So good stuff there. But Antoine Winfield to the Bills. Corner for me.
Was that your second one?
Yep. My second one.
Okay.
Aaron Williams was first.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with safety just because I think I'm running out. And at least guys that I remember. And so I'm going to go with a guy that you mentioned already, that when he was a Buffalo Bill, he was phenomenal. I think he led the league in interceptions as a rookie, if I'm recalling.
He also got robbed the Rookie of the Year from a steroid cheater.
Sure did. Same. I mean, not that the guy that beat Trey was on steroids, but Trey also got robbed.
Yeah. The Bird legitimately got robbed.
But yeah, we're going to go with the Jarius Byrd as safety. Again, people who aren't Bills fans are like, who Saints fans will know him. The guy that they signed thought it was going to do awesome and then didn't.
Yeah.
But when he was a Buffalo Bill, he was phenomenal. He was an absolute ball hawk for us, and was a lot of fun to watch.
He always seemed to be around the ball.
Mm-hmm. So I got 2 safeties, I got 2 corners, I got 2 linebackers, I got 2 ends.
D tackle is the only one you don't have double up yet.
D tackle, yep. But I think I'm going to go from D tackle for just a minute, and I'm going to go because you got all the all-time Bills guys, but I'm going to take one who's arguably more important than all of that. A guy that for a while was our best player, track star. None other than Brian Moorman.
I'm going to say you're going to take Moorman.
I'm going to take Moorman. Didn't have the biggest leg, but the dude, he didn't have to worry about put the ball where it needed to be. Coffin corner, I think, was more his specialty. But I just remember seeing a couple of fake punts with him, and just how flippin' fast he was for a punter.
Sean Taylor would agree. But I was legitimately thinking about taking him this because I think the drop off from punter from him to our next would be kind of big. So I was debating taking him.
I mean, with my offense, I'm not ever going to need him, but we got him regardless.
So Brian Moorman. See, I didn't even make a kicker or punter list, so I didn't have to do anything there. All right, so you went specialist. You're kind of like the Raiders taking Sebastian Janikowski, and you still have other positional needs on your roster.
Yeah,
so that opens a door for me, and I love that. We're going to go linebacker. I'm going to go to just after the Super Bowl era Bills, because we're taking players based on like their best with the Bills. I'm going to take somebody who won Defensive Player of the Year for the Bills in his first year in a Bills uniform from Green Bay. Do you remember who that is?
No.
Bryce Paup.
Never heard of him.
He won Defensive Player of the Year in his first year in a Bills uniform. He never really replicated that year, but Bryce Paup, linebacker, so I get a pass rusher from the linebacker position, number 95. Really didn't do anything with Green Bay or much, but that one year was Player of the Year worthy, so we're going to take him at his best. So there, Bryce Paup at linebacker. So I probably didn't have to put him on. I could have saved him to the end if you didn't remember him. So that's poor on me. So that's 2 there. I'm going to go back to the defensive line. I want to cycle some people out. I'm going to take Jerry Hughes.
Jerry Hughes. Nice.
Who for a 5 or 6 year stretch was a really good defensive end. Much like the Bills hit, like our best defensive ends were all around ones and not just somebody who only rushes the passer. Jerry was an all around good defensive end. So as your third defensive end can't get really any better than that.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves it back to you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go defensive line. And again, if we're going for their best season, Marcel Darius had a couple of amazing years for the Bills. He was a first-team All-Pro at least 1 year. After he got his money, he turned into don't say it. The guy that the Titans signed.
You want me to say it?
Starts with a W, doesn't it?
Albert Hainsworth.
Hainsworth. There we go. Yeah, Albert Hainsworth. That.
Yeah.
But for those couple years, he was absolutely phenomenal. Then he went to Jacksonville, and still just his career just went off. But yeah, and then I'm gonna go kicker.
All right, kicker.
And this one,
there's lots of options at kicker. Actually,
I know. I mean, Hauschka had a good couple of years from us coming from Seattle. Carpenter had a good couple of years coming from Miami. But I want to stay more recent. The much maligned, the guy who, he's had a rocky, a couple of rocky moments. But Sean McDermott, he's stuck with him time in and time out. I believe he holds the Bills record for the longest field goal made. Never question how much boot he has, and sure he has a big miss kick here or there, but he also has a couple of bombs that have won games for us.
His postseason this year kind of brought him back,
and I think this is a recency bias because yes, his postseason he was phenomenal this year. So Tyler Bass is going to be my kicker.
All right, so you're done with specialists other than the special teamer.
Yeah,
I'm going to pick one now.
I figured from Steve Tasker.
We're talking all-time players and somebody who 100% should be in the Hall of Fame. We're going to go with Steve Tasker, who is widely regarded from NFL people as the best special teamer in history. The only special teams player to win Pro Bowl MVP back when the Pro Bowl actually mattered and was actually a game. And the 1 year he was actually asked to play wide receiver, did pretty decently. When the Bills had so many injuries, he was actually thrust in there to do his other job. So Steve Tasker will be the first specialist I take.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you mentioned all-timers. He's an all-timer, not just in Bills history, but NFL history. I don't need any more D-ends. D-tackle is getting kind of low. Oh, I'm going to go linebacker, and I'm going to take Takeo Spikes.
Ooh, TKO.
That few years with him and London Fletcher was, like you had mentioned, a lot of fun to watch. Like those two were a menace for people. Just they didn't really have the offense to pair with it. So Takeo Spikes for me, and then my other one was Steve Tasker. So back to you. You have no other than specialists. You have one position of each to fill.
One of each. Well, so I know who I want to take for my special teams guy. So I'm going to go with the other corner, and I guess because I have my starters already, we got Stephon Gilmore, Tre'Davious White coming off the bench, little man, but he has a lot of heart. Number 24, Terrence McGee. Again, another guy that's outside of Buffalo. People wouldn't really know him. I liked him a lot. We converted a Dolphins fan to be a Bills fan just because of Terrence. No, there's probably not probably. There are certainly other corners who are better, but I think Terrence was really good for us for the 6 or 7 years he played.
He was an elite returner as well.
Yeah, so I had thought about him as my returner, but I have another guy that you'll also appreciate. I'm not going to pick him now, but you likely already know who I'm going to pick. And so now I'll go to linebacker, a dude who's been hurt from time to time, but an absolute difference maker on the field. One might call him a gentle giant. Others might call him the Italian stallion. Can't argue with how handsome he is. Matt Milano. This is likely going to be his last year in Buffalo, which is too bad. Injuries are just ultimately what caught up with him. But man, when he's on the field, he stops the run. He can rush the passer. I think his best attribute is his ability to drop back and pass coverage. Just the biggest biceps in the world. All pro.
Yeah, he does have muscles for days. So we're getting fleshed out here. You took your third corner, Terrence McGee. I'm going to take a traditional nickelback who has a couple big-time historic Bills plays. I think he's the best nickel cornerback in the league and has been for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to take a good old AJ Ainsley. But I obviously the corner I'm taking, Taron Johnson. I get goosebumps every time I watch that pick six in the divisional round from the Ravens.
Yeah, same.
Earlier in that year, remember he had the pick six against the Steelers during the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
That game wasn't. Yeah, so and you talk about like he puts his nose in there when he's not on the field. There's a big drop off for the Bills defense when he's not there because he's essentially a linebacker. They can do so much because of what he's able to do.
Right.
And as much as like we Poyer and Hyde, like Taron's right there in terms of importance to the Bills. So that's my third corner. My cornerback room is done. My linebacker room is done. My defensive end room is done. We're going to go back to safety here. This one, because he's a backup, this is a personal one. I'm going to take Mark Kelso.
Scumbag.
Now, the reason I'm picking him is he was pretty good, but my first Bills memory is going to Bills training camp and my dad like talking to him for like 10 minutes. Like he was just that good of it. Like my dad just started talking to him and it might have been not 10 minutes because I was like probably 5. So it probably seemed like an eternity, but I just remember just standing there watching my dad just talk to him. He signed an autograph picture with him. So just like one of those core memories that made me a Bills fan was because of him. And then he was a pretty decent, and then the double helmet as well. Like one of his signature calling cards, he because of concussions, he had one of those double helmets back in the day. So Mark Kelso fills out my safety room.
Yeah, that was going to be the one that I took because, the safety.
And then Ainsley worked with I remember you working with his sister at Kentucky.
Did you take 2 players?
Did I? Yeah, I took Taron and Mark.
Okay. All right. So then I'm going to go my other safety. Part of the, a couple of the Bills Super Bowl teams, first team All-Pro in 1992.
I guess who it is?
Yes.
Number 20, Henry Jones.
Henry Jones.
Yep. Yeah, his one great year was a really good year.
Yep. So Henry Jones will
He
be
had 2
my
pick sixes in one game on Monday Night Football.
well. He's the last safety that I need to take. So I need what, a defensive end and defensive tackle.
Yep. And then your specialist.
Okay. So for defensive tackle, I really like the Space Eaters. So you mentioned him already. I'm going to take Ted Washington.
That was going to be my one, too. Big old Ted.
So what? Now I need a D end in my
And your specialist.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go. Well, since you can't take any more D tackles, I'm going to pick my 2 specialists now. You took the punter I was going to take.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take Chris Moore, the punter from the Bills Super Bowl teams. Couple Pro Bowls. Not nearly as good as Moore, but he's good enough to be on Super Bowl team. So Chris Moore. If punt guy had ever kicked for the Bills, I would take him.
Mm-hmm.
But we never actually played for us. So I can't use him. And then kicker. I'm going to go with Steve Christie, who, after how Norwood ended, was a breath of fresh air, the free agent from Tampa Bay. I don't think he has it anymore, but for the longest time, he had the Super Bowl record for longest field goal as well. I'm pretty sure it got broken recently. But I think he's the all-time Bill. Either him or Lindell is right at all-time Bills leading scorer. So my specialist, Chris Moore, Steve Christie from the Super Bowl era teams.
Okay.
So that leaves you end in special teamer.
Okay. Well, I'm just checking one thing real quick. Okay. Well, so my defensive end and all of the premier ones have been, I think, taken.
Yeah.
So far. So Groot hasn't played long enough, and really, I don't know. I think he's really established himself. So I'm going to go with Phil Hansen.
Yeah.
As my other defensive
I like that. He was going to be he would have been my next pick as well for D end.
And then, so for my specialist, you want to guess who it is?
I honestly have no idea who you're going to pick for specialist.
It's a returner. And you and I watched him plenty of times. We watched him take back a couple of punts to the house.
Roscoe,
yep.
All right, Roscoe Parrish.
He was a lot of fun to watch. So fast, and I just remember, sitting in the upper deck with you. I think I forget what game it was, but he took back a kick to win the game. But anyways,
I think it was the Vikings game. If I'm trying to remember what it is.
Yeah, you and I were there, but either way, just again, there's not a lot of elite return. I thought about maybe Leotis McKelvin, right? But him costing us that game against New England, he'll forever be in my doghouse. But Roscoe, I liked him a lot.
So that rounds out your squad. Oops. And I just looked. I lucked out on a D tackle. Somebody who I didn't think played in my lifetime, but it was only when I was 4, so it still counts. He's a Wall of Famer, Fred Smerlis, Pro Bowler for the Bills for a while.
See, I saw him earlier, but I was like, oh, he didn't play in the 90s, so we can't take him.
Now, the rule is lifetime.
Oh, I thought it was played in the 90s. Okay.
Now, because I was looking through, I'm like, I don't really want to take, who did I have on my list?
Ed Oliver?
I had Marcus Stroud.
I don't know who that is.
He was the guy from Jacksonville, kept pounding his head. Like he would stand up with Kavika Mitchell and try to do like the blitz and confuse people. But yeah, exactly. So the fact that you don't remember him shows that like I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel at
Yeah.
defensive tackle. Then I just went to the Buffalo Bills historical starting lineup, and then what, 88?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, Fred Smirlis played in 1989. Thank you. We'll take good old Fred. And it's
Trash.
funny because he's the one that actually you saying, well, we won't use him because I thought he was much earlier than that. So
Yeah, I just thought we were doing people in the 90s, but whatever.
if it wasn't him, I'd take Jeff Wright, who started I think started every year for the Super Bowl era teams.
Yeah.
So I'll just in doing that, I will take Jeff Wright because he was good for his time. Jeff Wright. We'll keep it in the 90s. So let's do a rundown. Defensive end, Bruce Smith, Mario Williams, and Jerry Hughes for myself. You had Von Miller, Aaron Schobel, and Phil Hansen. D tackle for you had Sam Adams, Marcel Darius, and Ted Washington. I had Kyle Williams, Pat Williams, and Jeff Wright. Linebackers, I had London Fletcher, Bryce Popp, and Takeo Spikes. You had the Biscuit, Cornelius Bennett, Daryl Talley, and Milano, the Italian stallion, as you called him. Cornerbacks, Stephon Gilmore, Trey White, and Terrence McGee for you. Clements, Winfield, and Taron Johnson for myself. Hyde, Aaron Williams, Mark Kelso. For me, you had Poyer, Bird, and Henry Jones. Our specialists, I had Steve Christie, Chris Moore, and Steve Tasker. You had Tyler Bass, Brian Mormon, and Roscoe Parrish. Let's just do one more. Head coach.
Ooh.
So I just finished, so you get to pick. I would imagine I know who you're going to pick as your head coach.
I mean, Dick Duran's really rumbling around, but
7-9, baby. And may he RIP as well.
yeah. See, I don't know, man, because I'm like McDermott's been solid, but he's had some coaching mishaps. Levy's obviously led us to 4 Super Bowls, but couldn't get over the hump. And let's be frank, was he helped by we have these coaches where we have the Bill Belichick's with the Brady's, the Marv Levy's with the Jim Kelly's, the Sean McDermott's with the Josh Allen's, right? We don't have an Andy Reid-esque coach who went to different places and won regardless of who their quarterback was. So if I had to pick, yeah, and maybe my pick will surprise you, but I mean, if we're looking for someone who's made the playoffs for 3 different teams, right? Spent a lot of time in the NFL, wasn't necessarily helped by an all-time quarterback and still made it. Well, actually, he never won in the playoffs, so that's a bit problematic.
Is this who you were thinking of?
Hang on.
Your wife took a guess at it.
That is who I was thinking of. But then you got a guy like Rex Ryan, who was great with defense. Took a Mark Sanchez and the Jets to 2 straight AFC Championship games. I'm gonna go Marv Levy.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I considered Wade Phillips, but he never won in the playoffs.
And Levy had Hall of Fame talent all around. But at the same time, before the Bills reached a Super Bowl, do you know what their nickname was?
The Bumbling Bills or
the Bickering Bills because of all their so he got that team to come together and actually, play as a team, which I kind of think of like Phil Jackson. Like he was able to massage all of those egos and keep them in check to get them to where they needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Levy, I think, should be given credit because those Bills players back in they had attitude for days all across the board, and he got them to buy in and play together. So yeah, it's like he had great players, but I think we can't overlook at what he was able to accomplish by bringing them all together.
I mean, that's sort of the job as the coach, right? Like they obviously can't play on the field, but it's getting the most out of your players. Well, then, all right. So Marv's my guy. Who do you got?
I mean, as much as I don't like him because of his postseason gaffes, like from our lifetime, there's really nobody else that stacks up to. If it was all time, I would go with Lou Saban from the early Bills days, but that's not what we're doing. McDermott brought the Bills out of the drought, like forever. He did that. But still, his coaching decisions during the drought year, he almost screwed himself over. I don't know how many times.
Mm-hmm.
Middle of the campaign, oh, let's put in Nate Peterman, and then watch him implode in the middle of a playoff push. He's lucky we won the snow game with his decision to punt the ball instead of going for it, and we barely won that game. 13 seconds. His defense folding every year against Kansas City. But in terms of Bill's history, he's I think that easily the second best coach success-wise.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you can't break through the door if you're not there knocking. So we're at the door every single year.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, him and Bean are the ones who drafted Josh. And you're absolutely right with his defense against Kansas City in the playoffs. But other than that, right, our defense, especially our secondary, has been phenomenal for most of his tenure, right? Like, yeah, we wish that the defensive line would be a little bit more up to snuff, but his ability to draft, to sign guys like Poyer and Hyde, right? I mean, Rapp. So Vaughn.
Yeah. So let's take it a step further. Let's go coordinators.
Well,
we got time. So I get to pick one.
Yep.
I'm gonna go defensive coordinator. I'm gonna go Wade Phillips, who's one of the best defensive minds in history. Wherever he's went, his defenses have been successful. So he'll be my defensive coordinator, and you get to pick both yours.
Okay, well, I will take Jim Schwartz as my defensive coordinator. He's a guy that, I think we really wanted him over Sean McDermott initially. Or was it Rex Ryan? I forget.
Think it was Rex.
Yeah. Oh, man. Now, offensive coordinator, I want to go Ken Dorsey, but no. And this is where, your knowledge of the past, I don't have the past knowledge, so I'm just going to go for Brian Dable. I think that was some of Josh's. Obviously had a very efficient year this last year, but what Dable was able to do with Josh and with Diggs those couple of years that he was there. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you Googled it?
I had to.
Bills. Oh, what the heck? I didn't.
Well, I couldn't remember if Marchibroda was defensive or offensive coordinator. I had to look it up.
Who?
Ted Marchibroda. I couldn't remember if he was an offensive or defensive coordinator. So he was offensive coordinator during the late 80 and then up to the 91 season. So he'll be my offensive coordinator because he brought in the K gun. I couldn't remember if it was him or not. Gotcha. He was ahead of his time because nobody ran a no huddle offense. Let the quarterback run things essentially. So,
well, who has the best winning percentage though?
Probably Dorsey.
Joe Brady. Dorsey's third all time. Marchibroda's second. Dorsey's third all time.
Yeah. But I also don't think I don't Greg Roman ran a pretty decent offense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the Bills' offensive coordinators,
I'm looking at Alex Van Pelt.
Yeah.
Hackett, Roman, Rick Dennison. Although, let's be honest, what would their story be, right? Like if instead of exactly right. If Greg Roman or Hackett or any of those guys were running with Josh, it's likely we wouldn't be laughing about him. history's going to say, people who don't know, oh man, Joe Brady, he was phenomenal for the Bills.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He cost us at times with stupid play calls.
This past postseason.
Exactly. It's Josh Allen. That's
the screen to Cooper and then the choose a GM. All right. So you could just I think there's two pretty clear answers to who the GMs will be. I'm going to just Bill Polian
and Brandon Beane.
And then Bean. So, I don't think it really meant like they're both. I'll take Bean just because he's been in my lifetime the best one. Polian was, I caught the tail end of him. And he succeeded wherever he went. He went to the Colts and built them into a contender. So, you're getting 1B with Bill Polian. So.
Or maybe I don't want him. Maybe I want Doug Whaley. Who knows?
Or Marv Levy was a GM, right? Take Marv.
Yeah. Super great. And owner? Who should we pick? Ralph. It sucks because Cowboys fans are in the same position that we were. We're just like, oh, I can't wait for Ralph to die. And it's like the team didn't get better until the Pagulas took over.
Yeah. I think Ralph really lucked out with who he drafted and picked during that stretch of time, because outside of that stretch and this stretch, the Bills are historically a bad franchise.
Yeah.
So, that's why I'm really just trying to, it's stressful and I hate not winning a Super Bowl with Josh, but I'm also trying to enjoy it because I know once he's done, it's going to go back to being awful for quite some time.
And it could be the rest of our lives.
It could be, unfortunately, because we went half of our life without making the playoffs in a row. So.
Well, no, but think about it, right? Because you can have an elite quarterback. Joe Burrow, in terms of passer of the football, is top 2. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bengals suck half the time. And so, just having an elite. What's that? I
think that's an example of the coach holding the quarterback back.
Well, I guess, and that's sort of my point, is that, it rarely does it all come together. Do you get Mahomes and Reed together and Josh and McDermott and Brady and Bill, and you get these coach quarterback combos that just work? Because you could have, a great coach in your court. Yeah, obviously. So I'm with you. We're lucky. Okay. Because do I think that that Mike McDaniels is a decent coach? I do. At least in terms of the offense. But then you have a guy like Tua, who I think is a pretty good quarterback, but he has physical limitations, and it's just well, dang, we can't put it together. Or
you know what's crazy about that situation? That offense doesn't work without Tua.
Not at all.
He's gone. Their offense is bottom of the league. It's just crazy that as good as the offense is, without Tua, they can't run the offense, which is kind of insane to think about.
It's because you need a guy that can complete a 10 to 20-yard pass downfield accurately and on time. And if you can't do that, you cannot run that offense.
Yeah. And I would take McDaniels as our offensive coordinator.
Oh, my gosh. I think we'd score 40 points a game.
Yeah, we would. So this has been a fun few weeks of looking at the Bills rosters and things like that. Josh Allen is now officially married. Ring number 1, hopefully of 2 in the next coming 10 months or so.
Yeah.
A lot of people sad for both him and Haley to be off the marketplace.
Oh, dang, man.
I had my chance.
I franchise tagged her. Come on, Josh.
Franchise tags. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah. You and Rude, right?
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, calling dibs on something that doesn't even.
Yeah, that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, still dibs, just like shotgun.
franchise.
All right, so that is our show. We'll figure out something to talk about next week. We'll always do that. But if you have missed it the last 2 weeks, this was our defensive draft. Last week we did offense. Both are available on our YouTube, on our Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts, whichever way you want to watch or listen. They're there for your entertainment. So again, we filled an hour. Seems to fly by. For Dr. Duncan, I am Lawrence Foster, closing us out as we always do by saying, Go Bills.